637 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Appreciate you being here. Want to welcome on in our grassroots political consultant, Matthew Hurtt. Matthew, how are you?
Hey, Dan, doing great. Just ready for this week to kick off and hopefully for things to cool down in Washington, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen.
No. So I just want to go through a slew of questions because there's a lot going on. Number one, folks can watch us on YouTube at obviously YouTube and all the other places as well. But every day we do a poll. Today's poll is, do you believe that these hands-off protests or rallies across the country is a real indicator of Donald Trump and his popularity in America? You know, will this impact the midterm elections and so far? Folks are saying that there's no way that this is a real indicator of what is going to happen in the midterm elections or Donald Trump's popularity. What say you?
You know, these rallies over the weekend, I think more than 1,100 of them across the country are a snapshot in time. They're kind of like a poll. We are 17 or 18 months away from the midterm elections. If the energy continues, if this movement is sustainable, many of your listeners will remember the Tea Party rallies of 2009 and 2010. If this movement mimics that, it could certainly have an impact in some of these close races. It looks like the forecast shows Republicans holding the U.S. Senate with 52 or 53 seats next year. But the House is certainly in play. There are 18 seats that are toss-ups right now. And if this energy continues in those races that Republicans won by a point or two last year, it could be much closer or go the other way.
Is it fair to say, though, that the people that are at these rallies, number one, and I played some audio in the 5 o'clock hour that certainly proved this, there's people out there that are, number one, paid protesters. I don't think all, the millions of people, I don't think all of them are paid protesters. But I think there's clearly people that are out there that don't really know what's going on politically. Is it safe to say these are already people that did not vote for Donald Trump in the first place?
It's pretty safe to say that, Dan. I would say there are three kinds of people at these protests. There are a small number of folks who are getting paid, who work for left-wing grassroots groups. There are what I call the Vietnam War era protesters, the people who would come out to a protest no matter what it was. They miss the old days.
Their signs are actually dry erase boards.
Yeah, exactly. Professors on campus. And then the third are people who are curious and young people and people new to the political scene. I think probably a lot of your listeners who've been in Nashville for a long time came out to the Tea Party protests in 2009 and 2010 were very similar. And so while the movement, I think, is being driven by large, interconnected, left-of-center grassroots groups, they will attract people who are just naturally curious. And if they're checking in now, the question is, will they be checking in 18 months? And it is unlikely unless this movement can maintain a sustainability through the midterm elections.
All right, so we have the tariffs going on right now. Markets obviously have been impacted. It seems to me economists are divided on this. You've got a lot of economists who are saying this is going to be a disaster. You've got other economists saying, no, not so much. I'm just going to tell you where I stand or sit because I'm no economist. But we've never done this before. We've never tariffed every single country in the world, reciprocally or otherwise. And the tariffs are part of a cauldron of things that Donald Trump is doing to try to improve America's economy. So I guess, number one, do you have a prediction as to how these tariffs are going to ultimately, once it all shakes out, do you think they'll help or hurt the economy, especially when you look at all the other things that Donald Trump is trying to do with the Trump tax cuts, deregulation, manufacturing, bringing jobs back into America, and so forth?
There are two things to consider on the tariffs. I think the proposed tariffs are so high that it forces most of these countries to the table. What we'll likely see is a negotiation with most of the countries, as you saw the advertisement of the board that Donald Trump presented last week with the different percentages. I think there's an element of that forcing these countries to the table. But where it takes time, a couple of weeks or a month or two, we'll see prices rise in targeted industries. Again, countries don't pay tariffs. Consumers pay tariffs, and you can argue about the efficacy and success of tariffs, and we're going to see it play out. You're right, Dan. We haven't done something to this extent ever, but the people who pay tariffs are the people at the price point, the people who go into Walmart, the people who go into the small business and buy a good. That's where they pay, and if they see that food costs more or household items or other things, it's going to weigh on their minds heading into the election. But again, with 18 months to go, I think a lot of these countries come to the table and negotiate, and we see some success across the board there.
One of the things that I've found very funny, actually, is you've got Tim Walz making a lot of appearances on the chat shows. You had Kamala Harris.
Because, there were many things that we knew would happen. Many things. I'm not here, so I told you so.
What is she talking about? Number one, I personally believe that Donald Trump does remain very popular. And we can talk about the things that Donald Trump, just put the tariffs aside. Trump has succeeded on immigration. Trump has succeeded on getting the gangbangers out of here and so forth. And so the president has actually had a lot of successes in the first couple of months. So when Kamala Harris says, "I told you so," number one, what exactly is she talking about? And number two, I think the last person that should be out there raising her hand and talking about all this is Kamala Harris.
It is too early to say "I told you so." You're absolutely right, Dan. There have been quite a lot of successes from the Trump administration, particularly as it pertains to immigration. We've seen those. What I've been most impressed by is so many of the elements of the Trump administration have been so forthcoming and transparent on platforms like Twitter or X, where you can actually see what they're doing. Caroline Leavitt goes on once a week with a reel or on Instagram talking about the successes of the administration. This is a transparent administration. They are touting their successes. The American people are making decisions based on those. It just depends on the gravity of an individual situation or an individual issue on the American person. So, if prices are going up, people are thinking more about that. They may not think so much about immigration, even though I would say there's more success there. And then on all these other issues, the Trump administration is moving at a lightning pace to get people confirmed and into position, and they are working for what I've said on this show is generational change, cuts to the federal government, and innovation that will hopefully provide a better government service to the American people, not only in the Trump administration, but for years to come.
So are you as amused as I am, Matthew Hurtt? Oh, I got to check traffic. All right. Well, I'm going to tell you the question, then you can muse on it. Are you as amused as I am at all of these members of the elite political media coming out now and exposing that Joe Biden was not fit to serve, when all of us, including me and you, were all saying the dude is not fit to serve? Finally, now the elite media is admitting that he was not fit to serve. And now they're coming out with these bombshell exposés on how bad Joe Biden really was. We're going to talk about that straight ahead. Time to check the roads on WTN. Thank you very much, Christy. As far as your weather, we don't have any rain in the forecast, thank the Lord. Weather today, high of 60 and cloudy. And appreciate you listening to Nashville's Morning News. All right, so Matthew Hurtt joining us. Matthew, I don't know, I'm a little bemused at the media suddenly saying, "Oh my goodness, did you hear how bad Joe Biden really was during his administration?" Yeah, we all were talking about it.
This has popped up a few times over the last couple of months talking with you, Dan. I am not surprised that reporters are running to a narrative that will sell books for them. What does most surprise me, though, and it's fairly disappointing, even though it's on the other side, is Ron Klain, former White House chief of staff in the Biden administration, going to an author and saying that Joe Biden was out of it. This is something that in politics you have your friends and you have the policies you care about. Loyalty is an important issue. It does not surprise me that reporters want to sell books. It really surprises me that someone so close to Joe Biden would make an admission that, of course, we all know, but that he would do that to somebody that he worked for. If somebody who's worked for politicians and elected officials, loyalty is so important. And I'm disappointed that he's sort of caught on to that issue, and it is something that is bipartisan. Anybody who has worked for somebody, particularly somebody with a record like Joe Biden, decades in government, should be a little more loyal. And so it's disappointing, and it begs the question: what is he trying to make out of his career later?
I'll tell you, if I may interrupt, I'm going to tell you what he's trying to do. He's trying to save his political career, because I don't know. I think we all know how much of a train wreck Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were. Ron Klain was obviously very close to Joe Biden. I think he was his chief of staff, right? So you have a situation where I would assume that his name is mud within the Democrat Party. So I think that he's trying to regain some credibility. I could be wrong. What say you?
It could be some of that, Dan, but if I were looking to hire Ron Klain in the future, I would say, what has he said about his former employers? And I think that there's a bit of that. Again, in politics, particularly if you've got somebody at the chief of staff level, you want someone who you could basically write into your will. This is particularly if you're in elected office for a long time like Joe Biden was. This is, again, I think a disappointment from within the Biden family, quote unquote. And again, we all saw it. You and I talked about it for months. They called us conspiracy theorists for it. We knew it to be true, and it was a dereliction of duty for many of these individuals. If Ron Klain had seen the issue, he should have said something before the disastrous debate in the middle of last year.
Real quick, because I've only got a second now, but it looks like, and I'll get into more of the details coming up, but it looks like Mike Johnson and Anna Paulina Luna, they have come to an agreement on voting by proxy. And so it looks like the work in Congress, and I'll get into the details coming up, but it looks like the work of the House of Representatives is going to continue. How do you think the House of Representatives, and I've only got about a minute, but how do you think the House of Representatives, how have they been doing this time around? A lot of people are criticizing them.
It's hit or miss on the record. I would say I'm very concerned about voting by proxy. Thomas Massey forced members of Congress to come back at the beginning of the pandemic to vote on the CARES Act. He took a lot of flack on the right and the left for doing that. I think that people should show up for their jobs. And in the House of Representatives right there in Nashville a number of years ago, there was a scandal of members voting with basically voting sticks for their seatmates. So this is a little concerning to me, but I also understand, Anna Paulina Luna just gave birth and she's going to go be a mom for a little bit. But this should concern the American people. What gets permission for a member to walk off the floor and have somebody else vote with their voting card? Yeah,
we'll talk about what vote pairing is coming up in the next hour. How can folks find you on Twitter, Matt?
I'm on Twitter at Matthew Hurtt, MattheHurtt.
All right. We'll talk to you again soon. Matthew Hurtt, always great to have him on. It is 6:51 on Nashville's Morning News. Joan Jones has the news coming up at 7. Joan?
Yeah, Dan, we will take a look at the effects of all that rain that has fallen 4 to 6 inches in the past few days and what effect that is having, not just on the roads, but on wastewater treatment plants. That's all coming up here at 7 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.